Hello and welcome to Gladys Cake Kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this YouTube themed cake, which was the subject of a previous cake pricing video. This cake cost exactly £171 4 pence to make, a price tag highly debatable, but in this video I'll be showing you more details of the decorating process as well as the imperfection on this cake and how to fix it. We'll be cutting through this cake and I'll be sharing the serving numbers for a 7-inch round cake standing at 7 inches tall. I trust this video will be of some value to you, so without having to waste your time, let's get decorating. The cake after baking was leveled and left on a countertop to set firm before filling. This allows the cake whole or layers to settle before used to stop the layers crumbling during the filling and stacking phases. Back on my work table a day later, a bit of ganache is applied onto a cake board over which a cake card is placed. Ganache is again applied before the first layer of cake is put in place. Ganache used here serves as glue to secure both the cake and the card to the board surface, which should aid a firm foundation for stacking the cake. The first layer of buttercream is spread over the cake and another layer of cake is added. The process of filling and stacking is repeated until all 4 layers are stacked. When filling the cake though, any excess buttercream is scraped and the cake layers checked to ensure all 4 are set right on top of each other in an even order. After stacking, the cake stands at 7 inches tall. Worth noting, the cake is 7 inches in diameter. Stacking complete, the cake is left to chill before it is returned to be trimmed with a sharp knife dipped in hot water, which aids a clean cut to the cake surface. While trimming, the cake is shifting slightly, which is moved back in place, and a right-angled ruler is used to align the cakes properly. Trimming your cake will rid of cake crust, even out your cake surface for a clean slice when the cake is cut into. Trimming is done and next is to cover the cake in ganache. The first layer of ganache is for crumb coating the cake, which will seal in all the crumbs made from trimming for a clean surface ready for subsequent layers of ganache to be added. After applying the ganache though, any excess is scraped off using a scraper and the top of the cake is filled to be level. A second coating of ganache is applied to smooth over the first layer of crumb coat, and this process continues until a desired clean covering is achieved. The cake is left to chill and later returned for the top to be trimmed off any excess hanging ganache using a sharp knife. A scraper is again employed to level the top of the cake. However, notice some obvious imperfection on the cake, which is this crack showing as a result of the buttercream breaking through the ganache. This will be covered by fondant, and as a 1-tier cake should not be a problem for me, but perhaps for you, my best recommendation will be to insert a dowel to hold the cake layers together to minimize the risk of the cake layers shifting and room temperature. The top of the cake is trimmed again, and that's our cake polished ready for a layer of fondant covering. So I am not going to be fussing about this little imperfection on this cake simply because I have other tasks prioritized and this is really not a big issue, but a little note of caution. Don't be like me. So to learn how to fix a similar crack in a cake, I have a video linked up here for you, which will also be linked in the description box for you to learn some tips on how to fix a crack like that. One of the reasons why I left the crack is because besides not it being a big issue, there's a single tier cake, it's not that serious. It is also going to be covered in fondant, which means the crack will be sealed off. The weather is colder, so the cake is going to be set for longer and will not come to room temperature quicker, so it's likely to not cause any problem at all. However, for you, if you have a crack like that in your cake, I will recommend that you stick a dowel in the cake layers to hold it together. It will not fix the crack itself, however it will help keep the layers together for when the cake comes to room temperature, because the risk here is that with the buttercream pushing out of the ganache, it is likely to come to room temperature, and the differences in temperature is likely to cause shifting, especially if you have unstable buttercream. So I'll say for you, if you have a crack like that in your cake, the best thing to stop the cake from collapsing on you is to stick a dowel in. But more than anything, learn how to fix such a crack so that you feel safe and confident on your most challenging cake decorating days. Back on my work table, and some Trex is rubbed on the cake to serve as glue to hold the fondant covering in place, and the cake is set aside. The work surface is lightly dusted and 750 grams of Massachusetts fondant is rolled out thinly to cover the cake. Applying a layer of Trex, also known as Crisco, helps to cover the cake easily compared to water or any liquid that may make the fondant sticky. When the fondant is rolled out thin enough, it is draped over the cake and smoothed in place starting from the top. The bottom part of the fondant is pulled out to form a skirt before it is dabbed back into place. Massachusetts fondant dough is one of the premium quality fondants on the market that stretches, allowing the cake to be covered easily without drying out or causing elephant skin. When the fondant is covered on the cake, a cake smoother is employed to smooth around and any excess cut out. More polishing of the cake is done using a smoother whilst popping any air bubbles with a fine needle. To achieve clean, sharp edges on this cake, the cake is flipped upside down and polished using a cake smoother. This is done by first dusting the cake surface lightly with cornstarch and trimming off any thin fondant excess using a palette knife. A knife is then used to clean out the bottom of the cake, and a little more polishing later, we have a cleanly covered polished fondant cake. The cake is now transferred onto an already covered fondant board and set aside. After a light polishing to seal the cake onto the board, a fluffy brush is used to brush any excess cornstarch off, and my trusty steamer is out to steam clean the cake for a more polished appearance. A steamer is not a necessity in cake decorating. However, it comes in handy to polish out cornstarch residue that may be left on a cake. For me, I use it for attaching cake laces and steaming my ganached cakes for a more polished look. Cake polishing done, and my unpolished looking YouTube logo, which is hand cut from a printed hard card traced on a fondant, is applied to the cake using edible glue and tracks. The cake is steamed again for a clean look, but I notice my logo isn't as aligned as I would like it. But resetting it will cause me more problems than I care to solve, so I skip through, and a ribbon is applied to the trim of the cake board, and the cake is set ready for the red drip effect, which is made from candy melts, some chocolate pieces, and a drop of Calamil Merlot food coloring. Full details of the drip recipe are noted in the description box for you. The drip is applied using a spoon to guide the flow, and the top of the cake covered in red chocolate drip too. The red play button is set in the middle, and the Oreos chocolate pieces arranged on top to complete the cake, which stands beautifully presented as a fondant covered drip cake with additional chocolate decorative elements to match. This rather simple but beautiful cake is boxed up and unboxed again, and like most cake, has to be cut to be served. But how many servings can we derive from this cake? There is an industry standard, but over time I notice cake sizes and servings have evolved. Hence, I find cake servings are a matter of each individual business preference. For this cake dough, cutting through the cross section gave me a solid 17 whole servings if the slices were left as 7 inches tall. There were some uneven pieces adding up to 18, but cut into halves, these servings were double the number. Hence, a safe serving number for this cake may be 15 to 18 adult servings and 30 to 34 kids servants. The video about the price of this cake and how I derived the exact amount of £171 4 pence is showing on screen. Tap to watch, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.